Jack Corridor, Dennis Quaid, is a paleoclimatologist who is on an endeavor in Antarctica with two partners, Honest, J.O. Sanders, and Jason, Run Mihawk, boring for ice center examples on the Larsen ice rack for the NOAA. The ice rack unexpectedly severs from the remainder of the mainland, and Jack nearly tumbles to his demise. Jack presents his discoveries on an unnatural weather change at a unified countries gathering in New Delhi. Jack found that a long time back, an Earth-wide temperature boost changed the world's environment into the Ice Age. Jack says that it could reoccur in perhaps 100 to a long time from now, in the event that people don't quit contaminating the environment. The majority of the ambassadors, including the VP of the US, Kenneth Welsh, are unconvinced by Jack's hypothesis. At the gathering, Jack meets teacher Terry Rapson, Ian Holm, of the Headland Environment Exploration Centre in Scotland, who is monitoring the world's sea flows. Terry lets Jack know that the liquefying of the polar ice covers has emptied new water into the seas and weakened the salt level equilibrium, which has made the temperature of the sea flows drop 13 degrees. Two floats in the North Atlantic all the while show a gigantic pittance temperature, and Rapson presumes that liquefying of the polar ice has started disturbing the North Atlantic current. He calls Jack, whose paleoclimatological weather conditions model holds reconstructional information of the environmental change that caused the main ice age, to foresee what will occur. Jack accepted that the occasions wouldn't occur for 100 or 1,000 years. However, he, Candid, Jason, and NASA's meteorologist Janet Takada, Tamlin Tomita, fabricate an estimate model with his, Rapson's, and Takada's information. All over Earth, the environment framework changes for awful. Tokyo is hit by softball-size hail. It starts to snow in New Delhi, and Los Angeles is obliterated by a gathering of enormous F5 cyclones that hit all simultaneously. The US President, Perry Ruler, approves the FAA to suspend air traffic over the US because of extreme disturbance. As 3 RAF helicopters fly to clear the English imperial family from Balmoral Palace in Scotland, they enter the eye of an extremely huge tropical storm, like Superstorm, that causes a temperature decrease of 150 degrees that freezes their fuel lines and rotors, making them crash and immediately stick to death. In the meantime, Jack's child, Sam, Jake Gyllenhaal, is in New York City for a scholarly contest with his companions Brian and Laura, R.J. Smith and Emmy Rossum, where they likewise get to know an understudy named J.D. During the opposition, the weather conditions turns out to be greatly vicious, with extraordinary breezes and flooding downpours. Sam calls his dad, making a guarantee to be on the following train home. Sadly, the tempest declines, constraining metros and amazing focal station to close when they flew. Jack sees the president and gives him the terrible news that his Gauga of years is presently down to days, before the planet enters another ice age. Jack encourages the president to empty everyone in the southern states to Mexico, since clearing individuals in the northern states is past the point of no return. The VP says he's not entertained by Jack's alleged mockery, and Jack leaves for New York to track down his child. As the tempest deteriorates in Manhattan, a tempest flood very nearly 40 feet, about a portion of the level of the Sculpture of Freedom, influences the island, causing significant flooding. Sam and his companions can look for shelter in the New York Public Library. As they advance toward the front entryways, Laura cuts her leg on a piece of barbed metal joined to a taxi. She disregards the injury and assists a lady and her youngsters with escaping a flooding taxi. Survivors in the northern US are compelled to escape south, for certain Americans wrongfully crossing the line into Mexico. Jack embarks for Manhattan to track down his child, joined by Honest and Jason. Their truck collides with a snow-shrouded heavy transport simply past Philadelphia, so the gathering progresses forward with snowshoes. During the excursion, Straightforward falls through the glass top of a snowbound shopping center. As Jason and Jack attempt to pull Straightforward up, the glass under them keeps on breaking. Plane forfeits himself by cutting the rope, and he tumbles to his demise. The US president's helicopter is trapped in the superstorm, killing everybody ready, leaving the US VP in control. With a significant part of the number of inhabitants in the southern portion of the US at the line with Mexico, the VP consents to excuse a lot of obligation owed by the Mexican government to permit individuals to cross the boundary to somewhere safe. Inside the library, Sam informs everybody with respect to his dad's guidance to remain inside. Few tune in, and the little gathering that remains consumes books to keep warm and breaks into the library's candy machine for food. Laura is burdened with blood harming when the cut she got turns septic, so Sam, Brian, and JD should look for penicillin in a Russian freight transport that floated inland and are gone after by got away from wolves from the New York Zoo. All at once, the eye of the North American superstorm starts to disregard the city with its 150-day moment freeze temperatures, and the whole New York City horizon starts to freeze strong, structures and air the same. The three reviscidation of the Liberty with medication, food, and supplies coming to somewhere safe and secure. During the profound freeze, Jack and Jason take cover in an unwanted Wendy's eatery. Jason had capitulated to the super cold and wind and imploded. In distress, Jack dropped him into the eatery's kitchen through a vent and stayed until the tempests peered toward past. They continue their excursion, at long last showing up in New York City. They find the library covered in snow, however find Sam's gathering alive and are safeguarded by U.S. Armed Force troopers, flying UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters. In Mexico, the new president orders search and salvage groups to search for different survivors, having been given expectation by the endurance of Sam's gathering. A few additional gatherings are tracked down on top of Manhattan high-rises and are likewise protected. The film closes with two space travelers peering down at Earth from the global space station, showing a large portion of the northern side of the equator canvassed in ice, including every one of the U.S. north of the southern states, and a significant decrease in contamination.